Hello and welcome to the Changing Economic World. Explaining this is all about various strategies exist for reducing the global development gap. Okay, so the development gap, we'll start with that. It refers to the widening difference in levels of development between the world's richest and poorest countries. And there are many different measures used to assess the development gap, including Human Development Index, gross national income, life expectancy, etc. And the gap has major impact on the quality of life for millions of people around the globe. So we're really spatially looking at this map here, why there's such big differences between low-income countries and the higher income countries, which you can see in the green there. Okay, the good news is standard of living's gone up over the last 50-60 years for millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions of people in lower middle income countries and upper middle income countries. And there are strategies for actually reducing the development gap, but some people still live in extreme poverty. So according to Oxfam, the world's richest 1% have more than twice as much wealth as 6.9 billion people. Almost half of humanity lives on less than $5.50 a day. Today, 258 million children, 1 in every 5, will not be allowed to go to school. For every 100 boys of primary school age who are out of school, there's 121 girls who are denied the right to education, so there's a gender gap as well. Every day, 10,000 people die because they lack access to affordable healthcare. Each year, 100 million people are forced into extreme poverty due to healthcare costs. And then there is that gender gap. Men own 50% more of the world's wealth than women, and the 22 richest men have more wealth than all the women in Africa. So that's the gap. So what do we do about it? We do these things. So we've got investment aid, intermediate or appropriate technology, free trade and fair trade, debt relief and microfinance loans. So investment's one way, and it basically means getting money into a country from other countries or from major industries and companies to improve quality of life and general development. So it could come from large companies or the government, or it might come from external countries. So many LICs are not capable of doing this, so they turn to foreign direct investment. So big companies like BMW, like Volkswagen, will locate in other countries to take advantage of cost savings. So Volkswagen Group, for example, have an assembly plant in Lagos, and they reopened that in 2015. Nigeria has got its own car and bus manufacturer called Innoson, okay, and they also manufacture within Nigeria. And the good things about investment are it improves the expertise and skills of local people, it increases trade for the country, it offers new job opportunities, and it transfers technologies and ideas from rich to poorer countries. There are some negatives, such as the misuse of the environment, local workers in poorer countries getting poorer wages or working conditions, profits leaving the poor country and going back to the host company and the host country. Aid is one form of help given from one country to another, so that's a second way we can reduce the development gap. They're often given from governments or from non-government organisations or charities, and it's probably likely that you've given aid at some point in your life. So you can see some examples here. We've got aid given in terms of water sources purification after Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. Aid being delivered by the US military here after the Haiti earthquake. So that's sort of emergency aid, and we're going to look at development aid, which is longer term. Aid can also be tied or untied. So tied aid is when the country giving the aid expects something in return for it. Untied aid is more altruistic. It's where the country gives the aid without expecting anything back. The major types of aid include things like medical assistance. So you've got the British Red Cross or Médecins Sans Frontières, medicine without borders. You could send people to help out, trained people like doctors and so on, or in the longer term, teachers, engineers, consultants. We could send money. So the UK spent £45 million in aid to help Tanzania's education programme. It could go on large-scale projects like dam building. Those large infrastructure projects are designed to raise the standard of living for people, but they come with controversy because a lot of the time it might be using foreign materials, foreign workers, and local people might actually lose out. And then we could send equipment as well. The third method is appropriate technology. So there we'd hope that it's technology that would be intermediate, so not really high technology, not really low basic technology, stuff that will lift the level of technology in a country without being overcomplicated and over expensive. So it should be appropriate to the people, appropriate in terms of affordability, appropriate to the place, and sustainable. So you can use the PAPS acronym there to remember it. And I guess we'll skip through this, but the main thing is that intermediate and appropriate technology, it tends to be labour intensive, so it uses local labour. It uses sustainable technology and tools, knowledge of local people. It uses newly developed technologies that are low cost, but the local people can manage and control rather than imported technology and techniques. And it's in harmony with the local environment. So you could look at there's a video on my website from Practical Action about micro hydro projects, and they basically small scale gathering of energy from falling water, such as steep mountain rivers, and that generates kilowatt energy, electrical energy for people to use. So it would work like this: you would find a local river with steep terrain. Local people would dig out a channel, siphoning some of that water off. That would pass down a pipe or a penstock. Okay, that turns a generator in a turbine, and that generates the electricity, and the water then returns to the river. It's effectively being borrowed. So it's appropriate to the environment because you've got a steep slope that you can utilise and water. It's appropriate to the people because they build it and maintain it. It's sustainable. It's sustainable power, and then it's appropriate to the area because it works for giving electricity. The next scheme will be to trade. Okay, so you could have free trade. That's the trade of exchange of goods and money and services as exports. Okay, they exit the country or the region, and you get imports as well. Now the idea behind free trade is it's free from import tariffs and barriers to trade. So the idea would be a poor country could trade its way out of poverty with goods. The unfortunate thing is most high-income countries import primary products which have low value and export high-value manufactured goods and even higher value services. So that's good for them. But many low-income countries export lower primary products such as cocoa, cotton, iron ore, bauxite. And that means they struggle to raise the standards of living in the country. An alternative is fair trade, and that's a scheme designed to get a better deal for producers of the primary products that high-income countries need. So the producers get access to the market for their goods, a contract for extra financial security, and better prices for their products and access. So basically, if the price drops too low, fair trade will provide a supplement. So the products are a little bit more expensive for the consumer in richer countries, but you know your money's going to support the income of somebody in a poorer country. Debt relief's another thing that could be done. So many low-income countries took out huge loans during the 1960s and 70s, offered to them by banks and governments in rich, high-income countries. They used the money for various development projects like building dams, roads, schools, etc. And the idea would be that the poorer countries would build up their economies that way. But over time, those loans got so large because we had interest to the loans, and they struggled to pay them off. So the idea behind debt relief was that in the run-up to the new millennium in 2000, a campaign was started to drop the debt, which had some success in cancelling some debt for the very poorest countries and freezing the interest on some debt in other countries. Okay, this campaign goes on, so that was in the millennium, but there's a campaign going on right now to try and cancel other debts that exist from poorer countries to richer countries. The last one would be to offer microloans to individual people. So these are small loans where the interest won't build up. So a person would donate to a charity like World Vision. Then an entrepreneur, a person in a poorer country, receives loan and training. They grow their business, lives are improved, and then the loan is repaid back into the local community. Okay, so that's the six methods that we can use. I hope that was useful.